Shit Talk. Thank y'all for waiting around for us. And I've been late. I was late today, and I was late on 5150 on Tuesday. It's like damn, everything I've been on has been coming on late. But technical shit happens. Y'all know how it is. It's the internet. This ain't NBC. Y'all ready for it? Don't trip. Anyway, we have live I can't say in studio no more because we're no longer at the radio station, but live online. Very honored to have my special guest, Jayla, the self-esteem queen. How are you doing today?
What up? I'm doing wonderful. You have to excuse me. I'm rolling this blunt because this isn't a conversation that I have very often anymore. So I want to give you all of what you need today.
Yes, roll that blunt because I got another show that I do centered around music called Incense and Ashtrays. So that's all about rolling the blunt and listening. So, that's what we do here. And I'm in a smoke-free studio, but I got to find a space where I can smoke my blunt. I be doing the same goddamn thing. Let's just tell the truth.
But thank you so much for having me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. I wanted to just give everyone a background while Jayla rolls her blunt, and I sit here jealous of her smoking that blunt. I'm get started. Jayla's someone we met through social media. She has a great, awesome story. Someone who thoroughly impressed me. And I'm so glad you hit me back because I remember we talked on social media and I couldn't find you on my Instagram. Instagram be picking and choosing who you see and who you don't.
Yep.
And it's like you got lost in the shuffle and I couldn't remember because I smoke a lot of weed. I couldn't remember the name. I was like, like almost like 2 months. I was like, who was that? And then you hit me up. I was like, there she go. Thank you. Thank everyone for joining the chat room. Fourth Prodigy in the chat room. Everybody on YouTube. Everyone on Facebook.
Hey, everybody in the chat.
Hey, everybody on Twitter, Periscope. We got a lot of people joining us. I want to thank y'all again because we are here. We talk that intelligent shit talk. You know what I mean? Because these folks ain't going to solve our issues. It's along us to solve our own. And we got a lot of issues that we got to go through. Here, when we talk about the profound and the profane. Some days we talking shit. Some days we solving problems. Today we solving problems. I have Jay here because I had made a post about the Compton Police Department a few months ago and how they were disbanded. A lot of people don't know the Compton Police Department was disbanded in the year 2000 because they just had year upon year upon year upon year of corruption. They've been disbanded. A lot of those police officers left. They went to Inglewood. They came to Gardena. They went to Torrance, the LAPD. And some of them cycled right back to the Compton Sheriff Department. The reason why this is in the news, what's up, Uncle Jeff Brown in the chat room? Thank you for joining. The reason why this is in the news, we're talking about this because we saw the police officers get shot over the weekend in Compton. And there's a lot of people who are unfamiliar with the lay of the land, the territory down here in LA, and the dynamic, how extreme the dynamic is between the police department and the citizens. I want to mention to those who watched me on 5150 this week, I mentioned the Vikings and internal LAPD/sheriff gang, the Banditos, and the Executioners. 3 gangs that have been discovered within the sheriff department. And they've already had the last 2 head sheriffs catch cases. Only thing for Sherman Block is he died before he got to catch his.
Right.
The last one, Leroy Baca, I don't know if he actually in jail. He's supposed to go to jail. Shit. I don't know if they actually put the motherfucker up in there. Look up Lee Baca. He looks like Gargamel from the Smurfs. And right now we got a current thug up in there. So we got a pathology of thuggism, of barbarism, of brutality, of all kinds of things that go farther than what's reported on the nightly news. My guest Jayla was a victim of the Compton Police Department before they got disbanded. So I'm going to ask her to tell her story, how she got started. Then we're going to bring you through to how she's helping to heal people right now. So thank you, Jayla, for joining us. Go wherever you want to go with it. I'm not going. I know how this goes. So like, you got to go wherever you feel in your gut comfortable to go with it. Go, and you got the floor. Tell them why we're here. Tell them how you got here.
Sure. So, my name is Jayla. For years, I was known as just the Celestine Queen, and I spent 18 years rescuing sex trafficked teens from all across America with no social media, no camera, no crew, and just a pistol and a prayer. And I am a former teen prostitute and a former gang member from Compton, California. I was not born in Compton. I was not raised in Compton. I was raised in the Bay Area, and I am one of the kids who is the product of a divorce that fucked up my life and fucked up my mom's life. We lived in a upper middle class area. My mom got divorced, got with another man who moved us back to Southern California, and that marriage didn't work out. And so my mom got with a man, and eventually he made her choose between her kids and him and his kids. And my mom chose him and his kids, and she left me at an airport here in Southern California. I was 14 and a half, and we didn't have cell phones. So I made my way to Compton, where my father's mother stayed, and she allowed me to stay with her begrudgingly, but she also made me pay rent. So now I went to Gardena High, one of the last of the Mohicans, whoop, whoop, number 3 bus, and was just in very familiar territory, but very unfamiliar, right? So growing up in the Bay Area, in an all-white area, you kind of think that Boys in the Hood is just a fucking movie, right? And then you come back and you're like, oh, wow, you can't wear red in this neighborhood? That's how I ended up joining a gang. So am I allowed to say what gang I'm from? Or am I not allowed to that trip? Okay. And I say it respectfully. So I'm from Nutty Block. And there were some people that really looked out for me, so they could tell that I wasn't from the area, thought that I looked really good in my red and white Guess, and they were like, no, we don't wear that over here. In the meantime, met a guy who basically turned me out, thought that we were boyfriend and girlfriend, but really his house became the place where I turned my tricks. And so I was an honor student at Gardena by day, and I was a prostitute by night. It wasn't what I set out to be. It wasn't, I wasn't sad and lonely and hurt. I mean, I went from being on the streets of Compton, Long Beach Boulevard, to really being in somebody's condo. So it was a different sort of situation for me. But early on, when I was on the streets, I was at the Willow Tree Inn, which is right off the 91 freeway in Compton. And there were some Compton police who raped me there. They brutally raped me. And it was a horrific experience. I was there. They were there. And they basically told me that anytime they saw me there, that they would be coming to do the same thing to me. Years later, of course, I had to work with some of those same officers in Star Court as I was testifying against pimps. But I guess what's really important is I was a prostitute. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say it. And then I became addicted to the sensation of an orgasm. And when I became addicted to that sensation at a young age, it's no surprise that when I got a debate scholarship to LMU, I was still hoeing. And so the game changed, the characters changed. It sort of became an escort situation. But I did it for several years. And then, again, it wasn't what I set out to do. So when I graduated from college, I started a nonprofit, and I spent 18 years rescuing sex trafficked teens. And I did that just walking the streets. So originally it was, sort of me walking the streets and handing out business cards. Oh, I'm the self-esteem queen. I moonlighted as a motivational speaker. That's how I made my money. I did a lot of the talk show circuit. So you know how they have like the person who comes on and does a scare straight with the out of control teens, and the girls say, whatever I want. So some of those boot camp people are females, and I was one of those females. And so did motivational speaking, traveled all around the world, just really talking about what at the time we called teen prostitution, And so you have to understand that there's no dollars for teen prostitution, so they changed the name to sex trafficking. The same way that we ran out of money when the pills start killing us for manic depression, and so we changed that to bipolar disorder.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Intelligent nigga shit.
Exactly.
So I started rescuing, and it was one of my first Johns that actually put me on. And so he still is in the LA area. I don't want to give his name, but anybody in LA should know who he is, because he runs one of the largest tire shops in LA, and people always go to him on Slauson to get their tires. But anyway, great man, humanitarian of the year, but has a propensity for young girls. And I was one of the young girls that he had a propensity for. And
is it close to the 110 freeway?
It surely is. Looks a little like Gene Wilder. Yeah. So
great building.
Small world, isn't it?
Yeah,
but again, references available upon request. And so he helped me to study abroad in college. He helped me to make my first million. And he did that by selling one of my senior thesis to the SBA and got it licensed. And it was really about welfare to work reform and how to get women who live in the Wilmington Arms or, Jordan Downs, or, how do you get a woman to go back to work when she can't go back into the workplace, right? So that was one of my senior thesis. And it was really about helping women in lower economic areas start home-based businesses. And I ended up licensing that and selling it. And he was the one that helped me to sell it. He was the one that bridged that communication or created that conversation. And so while I could say a whole bunch of horrible things about pimping and hoeing, he said, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I'm not here to stalk people out, but I speak, say, and live the truth. And so there's no reason for me. I mean, even when I go there and get my tires now, I always say to him, remember when I used to have to suck your dick for free tires, and now I pay. I just want my 10% taxes off.
The person that said that was my cousin, and he grew up about a block from that place. That's how he knew. That person said that he grew up about a block on the other side of the 110. That's how he knew.
But I ended up running a facility that was in the Valencia, Santa Clarita area, and I rescued over 5,500 kids. And again, I say that with in 16 years I did that, because the last 2 years I sort of didn't do a lot of rescuing and really did a lot of education, So, and that's how Skin in the Game came. So anyway, I rescued for a good 16 years, and had to work with the police, not to help me, but more so when there were situations where the police was the pimp, because that happens and still happens, even right on Western. The police are the ones. If you go on Western, like Western Colden, right, Western 79th, Western 81st, the police will go right. It's two streets. And they go right up and down. And people will say, well, why aren't they stopping? Because they are trying to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that they hoes are making money and are undisturbed. So the corruption within the police department, I saw it as a teenager. And then, as a rebel, fist in the air, fuck the police, listening to Body Count. And some of you guys might not even know who Body Count is, but Ice-T had a heavy metal group called Body Count, and one of his songs is Pop Killer. And you can't really find it anymore, but I still have that CD. Nonetheless, I have a strong dislike for police, period. I have been harassed by the police. I have been lied on by the police. I have been arrested and beat by the police for things that I did not do. And these things have happened because when you are in a position of power, your own personal power, and you can walk up and down the street with a firearm and they can't touch you, but the pimps respect and love you, it becomes a situation where how are you able to do what I'm not able to do? So I wasn't the most popular on the streets, but I watched the police pimp young girls. I watched them beat young girls. There were some young girls who were found murdered, and the pimps in the area would definitely say it's not me. And I tended to believe them when they said it's not me. I spent many years hanging out with pimps. I know the code of the street. And so it's great that social media wasn't around and I wasn't trying to be popular, because you can't have 1 million followers and a blue check and be in the streets on bullets trying to save somebody, you know? So that was my life. Still don't want to be popular. And years later, a movie was made about it, really because I wanted to show that, you know, a lot of these documentaries that people see about pimps, oh, they're all men. No, sweetie. Because if you live in LA, you know who the fine hoe and the pretty hoe are. And if you live in LA, then you know that the pretty hoe is in jail right now. You know that she's in jail because she was pimping and pandering. And there are a lot of female pimps. And so I wanted to really just bring light to that. But the police brutality is horrible here in California. And one of the reasons why I sort of stay low key is because I know that there is a target on my head for the work that I've done and the people that I've testified against over the years. And I think it's really important for voices like mine to not necessarily be out so often, right? I don't need to saturate the market, but I think it's important to understand some of these killings that are happening in LA right now aren't by gangs, they're by these other gangs, these police gangs. You know, some of these women that are found raped, you know, are not. It's not happening by gang members. It's happening by the police.
You touched on something very important, because I'm born and raised here in LA. For those who don't know, I'm born and raised here. This is my city. I was here back in the '80s when all that shit was going on. I grew up in the Boys in the Hood / Colors / all the early '90s LA. I remember when they filmed that scene on Crenshaw on Boys in the Hood where Ferris shot up the street. When we was kids, we rode our bikes down there during the daytime and saw them setting up for that scene. So that's how LA I am. And one thing people don't understand is, like, back then in the 80s, and still now, but back then in the 80s when that murder rate was through the roof and they were saying, what's wrong with LA? Why are all these people getting murdered? People don't understand. There were so many reports of quote unquote gang members who was really just a nigga minding his own business that they labeled a gang member, locked up for no kind of any petty reason. And what they would do is they would get in his car and go to the opposite hood if he was in the gang and do a drive-by in his car. This was typical LAPD shit. LAPD and sheriff, whenever things get peaceful, like in '92 after the riots, when things got peaceful, basically everybody was like, hold on, who doing these shootings? By the end of '92, shit was back cracking again. We deal with a police department that when things are going good, they create bullshit. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about some of the bullshit that you've seen working with the police when it comes to chasing down some of these people.
So one of the reasons that I feel that these gangs were started within the police department is because they wanted to have some sort of camaraderie with Hispanic and Black gangs, real gangs, right? And they would try to infiltrate real gangs by becoming homies, and there were plenty of times where there would be somebody that I need to testify against in Star Court, and they would definitely come in court and testify against me or totally change everything that I say to make it seem like the situation wasn't what it was. I have personally witnessed police shoot and kill people and just keep going. Personally, in Compton, just walking up the street, walking up and down, talking to prostitutes, and just in my everyday. I have witnessed police run up and beat people. I have witnessed police run lights, hit cars, keep going.
I've seen that.
I mean,
What you gonna say?
what you gonna say? You know, the intimidation factor. I mean, even when I go to Compton now to visit, you know, they'll get up behind the car. Especially in Compton, it's a thing. If you're a pretty girl and you're driving a car and you turn the police down, they will harass you. They will give you tickets. They will pull you over. They will just stuff that shouldn't happen. You understand? And they rarely are reprimanded for what they do. Rarely. It has
Rarely.
continued. It has continued to be like that for years.
Mm-hmm.
I was beat by the Long Beach police, February of 2011. I was trying to stop someone from drinking and driving, and I took the young lady's keys. And I called the police. And when the police arrived, the young lady, she was lesbian stud, had beat the shit out of herself in her own apartment, drunk. And even though I told them, listen, I'm not gay and we're not gay together. And I'm sitting outside. I'm sitting outside. They felt, you know, they ran my name, knew exactly who I was, you know, and I got arrested because they knew who I was. You understand?
That's another game that cops play here in LA. When they know who you are and you're on that radar, they don't give you any stretch.
No slack. No slack. I mean, beat the fuck out of me. And the charges, of course, it went all the way to trial. So from February to August, went all the way to trial. Nobody there to testify. Nobody there on their side, but just to fuck with me. And I remember I had a lawyer. Her name was Sumi Lee. That was her name, Sumilee, Sumi Lee. And, you know, she said, they're doing this because they're targeting you. They're targeting you because of what you do. They're targeting you. I mean, they know exactly who you are. And because I've seen it happen to me and people around me, I know that whatever happened in Compton was a targeted hit. So I'm going to come on record and say it. It's a targeted hit. Because the way that the person ran up like that, you know, almost looked like a midget, actually. You couldn't really tell. It almost, you know, the way he was.
They tried to say he was black. Man, don't no nigga run like that.
Right.
He ran like he had 3 left knees.
None. And they will try to blame it on a black man. They will tell you that black and white video is a black man, and they will tell you that no Ring camera in the area has picked up anything.
And here's the thing: when you have a run like that, if it's everybody in the hood know the nigga with a run like that, that should be fairly easy to catch. I'm gonna tell you something that I've heard. I heard that they know who the person is. I heard that they've already taken, like, I'm not gonna say what they did to the person, but that person's in custody, or however you want to say it. They know it had internal prison connections from a certain mafia that happens to have connections on the streets. Let me tell you a little bit something about how the sheriff department works. What happens here in LA, it happens in the LAPD too, but specifically the sheriff department. You'll have, and I'm not hating on no group of people, I'm just telling y'all the truth. Y'all can take this shit or leave it. But you'll have a family, 3 or 4 brothers. The first 2 older ones get on the street. They part of the MS whatever gangs, and they get Mexican mafia ties. Well, that youngest brother, they gonna keep him clean. He's not gonna have a record. He's gonna be squeaky clean. They're gonna make sure he go to school on time. Why? Because young bro is gonna eventually become an LA County sheriff or an LAPD. And you have a lot of people with Mexican mafia ties within the police departments here in Southern California who have family members that are police officers. I remember there was a shooting, LA County sheriff got shot and killed. This may be 2007, 2008 here in Inglewood in his front yard. And everybody was like, we know what that was. because they have their own thing. And to back this up, the FBI released a report saying that these groups have infiltrated police departments and law enforcement on all levels. And so I'm saying this to say that when you see people out there in these streets doing what you may deem immoral or less than, understand there are levels to this. And often understand that the person that you see in handcuffs ain't 1/100th of a criminal as the person handcuffing them. Because oftentimes the pimp that you're wondering about on the street is the person handcuffing. The murderer that you're talking about on the street is the person on the news holding the microphone giving the report. It goes on all levels.
All facts. All facts.
And we talk about this here on this show a lot, and we have someone here, Jay, the self-esteem queen here. Jayla, I said Jay. Jayla, the self-esteem queen.
Jay, Jayla, you know, it don't matter.
I'm just, I need a blunt. I see you smoking. I'm like, God damn, I need to smoke.
You know, let me tell you something. So for many years, let me just say this. For many years, some of you guys may know what code switching is. So for many years, I've had to code switch.
Let me break code switching down for them before you go in there.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna let you go. Yeah. Code switching is every environment you go in, there's a code of conduct. When you're around your grandmother, you behave and you talk a certain way because it's your grandmother. When you're around your friends, you behave and talk a different way. When you go to work, you behave and talk a totally different way than you do at the barbershop. Each environment has a code, and you switch codes depending on the environment. That's what code switching is. Go ahead.
So for many years, I've had to code switch because I've run a 20-year nonprofit. And this year I decided, fuck the code switch. If people know I smoke weed, they know I smoke weed. If people know, like, you know, I am who I am, and I don't want to continue. I mean, you know, I can change my voice and I can be one person. But, you know, I smoke to maintain because I've rescued over 5,500 kids. I've also had over 20 commit suicide in my facility. I'm a suicide survivor. I am the survivor of abandonment issues. And, you know, even though I'm pretty put together, I have mental health issues, right? Complex trauma from the different things that I've had to deal with. And so as a result of that, you know, we need to stop putting, you know, a bad stigma on people who smoke weed. You understand? Some people, their drug is coffee, and in the morning, they go
sugar. I'm glad you said that because because like for a long time, it's so good you said that because this is when I was at my job working with children. One reason why I'm just now really putting myself out there on YouTube. I didn't really put energy behind my YouTube until about 6 months ago, around when the COVID hit. You know, I didn't really put myself out there because of my profession, working with children and being a relationship coach. And it was like, you know, I'm a comedian, but I'm the kind of comedian I tell the rawest joke ever. I don't give a fuck. So I'll say anything on stage. I don't give a shit, and I'll say anything here online. So I spent so many years kind of being tucked away, hidden away, and then now I'm out here. Then it's like, do I hide? I love smoking weed. Look, let me tell y'all something about weed. I, as a mental health worker, in 2014, almost had a nervous breakdown. Just because when Jayla and I were talking about this before it came on, when you work with people, no matter how you look, no matter what experiences you have, if you care about people, that shit sticks to your ribs. It ain't no clocking out of helping people in trouble. When you've done what you have to do, you still go home with that here. I started smoking weed more when I had my knee surgery in 2011, 2012. But really right around the time I had that near nervous breakdown, I started smoking more. And what the weed did for me was it allowed me, because I was be very judgmental. You know, as people, we get mad at ourselves. We judge ourselves. We say, I should have did this wrong. I should have did this right. Things that happen to us, we internalize and put back on us, and we judge ourselves so harshly. What the weed did for me was it gave me a chance to get just that enough little separation between what happened throughout the day and who I am to sit back and rationalize and be like, you know what? that is what it is. Let me get back to my life. So for those people who are real judgmental and have things to say, you don't understand that things like cannabis, these things help when you, especially when you're someone who works with other people and you pour yourselves into people. You sometimes need a little bit of something that's going to get that fuck it back in your system.
And let me also say this. I appreciate you for saying that, because when I was in high school living with my grandmother, you know, she wouldn't allow me to go to, so she devout AME, pillar of the church, still made me pay rent, still knew I was selling pussy at 15, right? So imagine that I'm a young girl understanding what generational curses are before the term was coined, realizing the mom that abandoned me was not the mom that I love. So, you know what I mean? Like being woke at a young age is not easy.
Ooh.
and so my grandmother made me go to Christian counseling in the church. Pastor tried to fuck me on Thanksgiving at his house. I write a letter to disassociate myself from the church. And of course, I'm the black sheep of the family. Okay. On my mom's side of the family, I'm the darkest person. So I'm the nigga, because we're Creole. And the ones
that's a dynamic right there.
And the ones that can pass for white, these are my mom's brothers, are married to white women who don't like black people, and are just now following me online and telling me how offended they are because Black Lives Matter. That's my real life, what's going on right now. And I say that to say, at one point, so shit doesn't stop for people, right? You can make a lot of money, you can be successful, right? And we see that shit doesn't stop for people. I've had 3 friends that have committed suicide during this quarantine. So I have been on man-made medication, and it caused me to be suicidal. And that was before I was one of the guinea pigs, you understand? And I lived in Northridge, and I found myself on Lassen trying to get hit by a car on Wellbutrin. And so I have found that a variety of different things like meditation, so on and so forth, help. But you have to understand, I'm a former teen prostitute. And before I was a prostitute, I was molested by my mom's brother, molested for years. And there's trauma there. And although I have done a lot of my own healing work, there's trauma there. You understand? And so a lot of people are dealing with trauma, and some are getting help and some are not. The police in Compton are not getting help. They're not getting help. So I take my own self-help breaks, and you know, that's why I don't rescue anymore. I have twins. I'm a single mom by choice, had a donor because I wanted to do my own shit, my own way. And I spend a lot of time educating kids on emotional intelligence, because that's what's missing. See, the idea is not to not get stopped in Compton. The idea is to know how to play the game when being stopped in Compton. And that's what I teach. You understand? It's not just about knowing the law. It's about being able to have a conversation, being able to protect yourself, right? Without getting killed and going home. Everybody's not trying to be Sandra Bland. And I don't think people understand that.
Being able to code switch when you run across the police, in other words.
Correct.
You know, and you touched on something I want to go a little deeper on, because this is something that when I had my depression really tough, this was something that I kept seeing as a reoccurring theme over and over again. And you can speak to it as a victim of this. I got depressed because I would see parents that knew their children's situation, and matter of fact, created the situation. For those out there who like to judge people on the streets prostituting, if you want to judge gang members, let me lay this shit on you real fast, motherfucker. Then we can get back to what she's saying. I had one kid who was 8 years old, and at 8, I don't know if you ever come to LA, you'll see kids on Venice Beach or in Hollywood selling socks, selling candy or whatever. A lot of people don't know that My boy was 8 years old selling that so he can buy his own underwear to go to school because his mom didn't buy his underwear and his socks at 8 years old. At 8 years old, if he wanted to go to school, mom charged him gas money. And if he wanted anything, she didn't really have nothing in the house to eat. And I could name at least a dozen kids. I'm giving you one example. And so he was going through all this. So what happens when you turn 10, 11, 12? Well, hold on. Let me speak to you adults. What happens when you've been making minimum age? Minimum wage was cool at 18, 19. But when you turn 23, 24, you start looking for more money. Well, a 12, 13-year-old can't go apply for a job to go start looking for some more money. So they have to sell something that comes at a higher price that they can then live the life that they want to live because they don't have support systems around them. So they have to go to the streets. They have to go to get and sell the commodities that people are going to buy to help them survive because they don't have the help at home. And what happens at home all the time, one thing that I'm tired of always saying, they always try to make it seem like sex trafficking has one direction, one lane. Like people don't, it's not just the creepy man around the corner. Oftentimes it is your pastor, Reverend C.L. Franklin. Why? Oftentimes it is the people, it's the family members. And more often than that, to a lot of ladies out there, one thing that hurt my heart was oftentimes the mom knew who it was and didn't do anything about it, which then creates a stronger anger in the child that perpetuates that the rest of the society has to deal with. You guys don't know how often I had to deal with parents who knew their children were being molested, raped, beat, and didn't do shit about it. And then when I turn on the news, they want to talk about toxic masculinity, this and that. No, we got to start this shit in the home. Talk to me about a little bit about just the mistrust that you still have to deal with today. That's the biggest mistrust. That's the biggest break in trust that can happen to mom. Putting daughter out there. Talk. If you don't want to go there, I'll get it.
Oh no. You've hit and touched and agree with my spirit.
Okay.
So I'm already rolling my second blunt.
Roll it.
I'm glad you guys are allowing me to be myself because I don't know any other person to be. And I'm not going to die from trying to be the character that somebody else wants me to be. I'm not made for social media. That's why you don't see me around. So I used to mentor a group of young girls in Watts. And what happened was I have been alerted to these girls. They're all friends and they're all in relationships with their uncles. And their uncles are all in the county jail. And I'm talking about sexual relationships with their uncles. And so I was brought in to mentor them. And one of the very first things that after they found out, so first of all, they were never taught about molestation, right? So there's a generation of kids that don't know what molestation is. They don't know what incest is, right? And when they found out what molestation was, one of them straight out said, I can't help that I love who I love. So we're gonna stop, we're gonna just stop right there. I'm just breaking it down. We're gonna stop right there. She said, I can't help that I love who I love. Now, let me tell you something that's unpopular for people to hear. And let me also say, I'm not high. I smoke about an eighth a day. So I don't want anybody to think, oh, this bitch is on here high just talking. It's only my second blunt.
She just regulating people.
I was addicted to the sensation of an orgasm because I was molested by my uncle. And I learned what an orgasm was at a very young age. So that by the time other men took advantage of me in that way, I was only trying to get my high as they were trying to get theirs. You understand? And so having that sort of trauma, right, at a young age, it really, when you don't have the cognitive thinking skills to understand this is wrong, when you finally understand this is wrong, When I didn't know what molestation was, I was being molested. And then when I understood what it was, I still allowed it to happen because in my brain, I thought my uncle and I were going to get married.
That's what happens. And people like, because like, there are these documentary called The Cuties, whatever, coming out that's out on Netflix. And I've seen people debating back and forth on social media. Well, and like like talking about it. And the thing isn't, we're not saying sex is bad. We're not saying this is that. Well, sex with your uncle, that's some bullshit that needs to stop. What we're saying is when it comes to children, there's an age that you can't take certain things. When they're exposed to sex at a very young age, children take on the mindset. And as a matter of fact, we talked about this earlier today on Craig Facts from the male point of view, because Craig was talking about how his first time having sex was like at 11, and he thought it was just some stuff from the neighbor, but it really screwed up his point of view through middle school and high school, and he wasn't able to enjoy certain things. And this was a mutual thing. So when it happens to you without your consent, and it's just kind of put onto you by someone who you initially trust, like a family member, like an uncle, it warps your point of view on sex, on relationships with people in general. There's a pathology here, whether you're talking about R. Kelly, whether you're talking about Fillmore Slim, whether you're talking about, we're dealing with a pathology of people who've been exposed to sex at a young age. I ain't here to make excuses for nobody and what they do afterwards. What I am trying to bring awareness of is for us to have compassion for other people's stories.
Yeah, but we don't train our, we don't see the problem is, with this group of young ladies, they were not trained to understand that this was wrong. You understand? And so that's why you have a lot of women that are in their late 20s, early 30s that are like, free R. Kelly, free R. Kelly, because everybody got an R. Kelly.
Hey,
I had an R. Kelly. So everybody got an R. Kelly. And that's the problem. The problem is that, we want, and social media has just fucked us up. But we want to be popular. And so some people are having kids to be popular, and they're trying to live the popularity they didn't have through their children. Right. And so this over sexualizing of children. Right. My kids are still listening to Spandau Ballet and Thompson Twins, and they think New Kids on the Block is a new group because they're in a bubble. There is no cable. There is no, they're 8 years old and they're in a bubble. And I'm teaching them to be better human beings, period. Right. And it starts with them knowing that their Black ass lives matter. It starts with, me letting my kids know we're Black, and Black is beautiful.
Black is beautiful.
And some people don't like Black. You understand? And I have been, during this quarantine, I was harassed by one of the gang members of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department while driving down the 60 freeway, right? I was pulled over with my mom in the car. My mom is very fair complected with hazel eyes, right? So he pulls me over. Not his jurisdiction, clearly. That's the Highway Patrol's jurisdiction. I was not speeding. Pulled me over right before the 710. And I jumped out. This was during the time that people were protesting. I wasn't going to a protest. I was going to get my car from the dealership. And he pulls me over, and I jump out of the car. So we had been on the 60 freeway. He was here. I was here. He was here. And eventually I just looked over at him like, the fuck are you riding alongside me for? Once I looked over, that was his cue. He pulled back, got behind me. I'm like, why the fuck is he pulling me off the freeway? Pulls me off the freeway. I jump out of the car. I don't have shit to lose. The fuck you pulling me out of the car for? He's radioing somebody. Sir, what are you pulling me out of the car for? Never took my license, never took my registration, never took my insurance card. Had all of them in my hand when I jumped out of the car. I said, sir, I was not speeding. And he said, well, you looked at me very threatening. I said, first of all, sir, I'd like you to bring the commander here. Call the commander. I said, you're pulling me over out of your jurisdiction. I wasn't speeding. I want to understand what you're doing. So I don't know if he thought that my mom was just some random person in the car, but when he found out that it was my mom, I said, Mom, you see this shit? Right? Now my mom looks white. Mom, you see this shit? All of a sudden, he starts berating me in front of my mom. I said, let me tell you what you're not about to do, sir. I said, I don't have a motherfucking thing to lose. So now all the people, we're in a Hispanic area, wherever it is that he pulled me off the freeway. I said, first of all, no, it's not your jurisdiction. Second of all, I know my rights. I start reading off my rights. Third of all, if you do not have a reason to pull me over, you are not going to take my license and my registration and my da-da-da, then I want you to call a watchman. Mom, get this and that. I get on FaceTime. My lawyer is so-and-so in Pomona address, da-da-da-da, and I will. He said, you're getting worked up. So again, I said, sir, do you have a reason to pull me over? So what they want to do is they want to get you worked up like that. But if you sit there like a fucking punk, they're going to be like, oh, we gonna punk this bitch. We gonna put her in her place. No, you don't have no place to put me the fuck in. Mm-hmm. You understand? I remember my father passed away. But I remember me and my father going to the gas station, him being in a car with me. And my father was one of them fuck them pigs type of niggas, right? My father was like Radio Raheem. He would walk around with a boombox playing, Machiavelli. You know what I'm saying? That was my dad. You understand? And he looked at the police, I went in to pay for my gas. My dad was outside pumping my gas. By the time I came outside, they had my dad the fucking handcuffs. What the fuck my dad do? My dad looked at it. He was looking at us in a threatening manner. And so that fucking flashback came back. Motherfucker, I'm about to die for mine, homie. You ain't about to punk me in front of my mama. These people, fucking nobody. I called my lawyer. I'm being pulled over. Anyway, he ended up leaving. Told me that I should be embarrassed for, first without, he had to chastise me. You ain't about to chastise me on.
Hell no.
You chastise me. So you can say whatever you want to say, but my lawyer's on the phone. I want his office to know that I'm being pulled over by the sheriffs. His name is so-and-so. Sir, what is your badge number? Sir, what is your badge number? Sir, what is your badge number?
It's eerie you say you got pulled over on the 60 near the 710 freeway, because I have a friend of mine, a comedian friend that was mine, rest in peace, Mark Jones.
Rest in peace, Mark Jones. So first of all, Mark's wife Ebony is an old mentee of mine, a friend of mine. So speak on it, please, because
I didn't know you knew Mark.
I don't know Mark, but I know Ebony, and that's
okay. Well, Mark is someone I knew when I used to run my comedy show. He used to come a lot. Craig knew who he was. Craig Facts, for those who know me from Craig Facts, we all knew Mark Jones. We all kind of started comedy together. And Mark was one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. You mean calm spirit. He was very likable. He knew a lot of people throughout the city. He's fairly popular out here in LA. He went to Gardena High also. And in May, he got pulled over on the 60 near the 710 by the CHP, and they killed him. But they said that he was disrespecting the police, but we all know that person that's a light, that has the smile of an angel, that's super nice. They don't even have the personality. He's the kind of person that if you slapped him, yeah, he'd whoop your ass in defense, but he'd apologize afterwards. That's how nice of a person this man was. And they killed him. So, and people think that we just talking shit. This isn't the thug. This isn't somebody who robbed a bank and ran. This ain't somebody who pulled a gun out. This is one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. And so I said that to say, I have another person I know. I'm not going to say his name because in his case it's still going on. Well, it can get better. But someone I know that's very close to me, a family member, lawyer. And as a lawyer, he beat the LAPD's ass quite a few times in lawsuits. He ended up having some shit happen at his house. Long story short, it's some fishy stuff, and they found a way to put him in jail. Because basically he's kicking their ass too much in the courtroom. So they literally have someone break in his house. He goes and shoots at the person that broke in his house, and they
Yeah.
arrest him for attempted murder. But the person that broke in his house actually had a pending police harassment case against him. We know how the LAPD work. They get they people that got charges against them and use them to create some stuff. Rest in peace, Nipsey. It's a pathology here in this city, and I'm bringing awareness to that because we're in a time right now where we're talking about the police, we're talking about defund the police, we're talking about all these things. But on top of defunding the police, we need funding towards people like Jayla. Talk to me a little bit about your work now and how you've been helping throughout this, and some ways that people can help you do what you do.
Sure. So let me say, first of all, I'm retired from rescuing sex trafficked teens. I committed murder in 2016, and so I felt it was time to retire. I've been teaching, so I have a foundation, the SEQ Hope Foundation. Hope for me stands for Hold On, Possibilities Exist. And we teach emotional intelligence to at-risk youth in lower socioeconomic areas across America. I also do suicide and depression prevention in Native American reservation communities because rape is a pandemic amongst Native communities, and suicide is a pandemic amongst Native communities, so much so that the government has given $1.5 million over 3 years to over a dozen reservations for this type of work. And so I do a lot of trauma-based work. There is no way to help me except to pray. I don't have a crew. I don't have a crew because my ancestors need me to do this one alone. And so we sell candles to fund the nonprofit because I'm not begging anybody for a motherfucking thing. And I don't want anybody's money for free. If you want something from me, I have a whole area right here in my house where I make candles. I have a candle company called Light the Mood. 100% of the proceeds go to my foundation. I don't take any money from my foundation. I have a corporate 9-to-5. I work in investment banking now. So I retired from one thing, started another, never too late to reinvent yourself, but still running my own business. I employ survivors of sex trafficking. And, I really just teach people how to be better human beings. So if you want to support, buy a candle. But otherwise, cheer me on.
What's the website they can buy it from?
Sure. The website is Light the Mood. Light the Mood. If you go to my Instagram, they can find it there, but it's linked somewhere there. My foundation is linked there too. But Light the Mood, LIGHT, and that's where we sell candles, and we make them right here. I'm one of them people that just I speak, say, and live the truth. So I make candles right here. Candles. But we do. I really do healing candles. So prayer candles, healing candles, affirmation cards, things that are really for mental health boxes. I'm really into that. And I'm also a Reiki practitioner. So I do Reiki out of my house. For those people that don't know what Reiki is, it's a Japanese energy healing technique. Because everything really is energy at the end of the day. The way that you respond to somebody to save your life is energy, right? I didn't know about Mark and what happened to him actually until recently. When that happened to me, I had a flashback of my dad getting arrested, and I was like, "Oh, no, what is that song by T.I. ASAP? That nigga said, I don't know what you're gonna do for your respect, but I'm gonna die for mine." And that respectfully is how I feel. I think that one of the things that we need to do is really, first of all, get educated in how you deal with the police, because the reality is that you don't, in Los Angeles, you don't have a say-so of what's going to happen to you, whether you're innocent or guilty or whatever. One of the reasons why they arrested me in 2011 was because they, in a domestic violence case, I have to surrender my firearm.
And you can't do nothing with that.
Right, you understand? And so they wanted to prohibit me from doing my work. You understand? And they wanted to take this situation where I'm trying to stop somebody from drinking and driving, right? So they made a decision to do that, and that decision stuck until the case was thrown out in August. You understand? So you have to educate yourself on how you really need to deal with the police. I encourage people to get, cams for their cars. You understand? I encourage you to learn how to code switch when necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage you to find a friend that's a lawyer so that you can have somebody to telephone, in case of an emergency. Like, what was that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Phone a motherfucker. If you have a police officer in front of you and he looks like he is a threat to you, and anybody with a badge is a threat to you, you need to be sure to have some, fuck the bag that you're trying to buy. Fuck with your stimulus check, put that shit aside to have a lawyer on retainer. So that Ben Crump can't help you after you're dead. I mean, until after you're dead, with respect.
You're right.
So I encourage people to really just understand it's a war. It's a race war.
Yes.
We're in the middle of a race war.
We're in the middle of a race war, and we're behind enemy lines. And so when you're behind enemy lines, you want to build up as many skills as you can, because sometimes it's time to confront them directly. Other times it's time to code switch and sit back in the pocket and let them do. And you have to know these things, because we have people in these police departments that's literally signed up to the police department to hunt niggas down.
Understand what he's saying is the truth.
Like, please. I have a friend that's an LA County sheriff, and he's not from the United States. He's not from Mexico. He's from he's from back in the Middle East. And he didn't really understand American racism because his best friends growing up were black. He went to black schools. And so he saw it on TV, but he didn't really understand racism in practice until his first week as an LA County sheriff. Mm-hmm. I remember him calling me, and he's like a fly on the wall, because if it's black people around, they're not going to necessarily talk like this. But when there's non-black people around, they talk however they talk. And with him being non-black from the Middle East, they felt comfortable enough to talk how they talk around him. And this was the Lennox station, the station that shot Dion Kizzee last month, that station. And he said, all they do is talk about black people, how they going to hunt niggas down. They get tallies in the morning and talk about what they're going to do, and they compare notes when the shift is over about how many black people they fucked with. He said the black cop, he said not the black, he said the Asian cops do it, the Mexican cops do it. He said, hell, they're worse than the white cops. And for him, it was new to him because he wasn't ready for all this. You know what I mean? It's to the point to where he spent as little time as he could on patrol. He got off patrol so fast and went up in that office, went up away from all this shit, because he saw what happened on the front line, and morally he couldn't take it.
You gotta understand. You got the white cops who are part of Aryan Nation gangs, right?
Hells Angels,
right? Then you have the Asian cops who are part of their Asian gangs, and then you have the Hispanic officers who are a part of the Mexican mafia, right? And none of them like black people, so it's open season on black people. And I need people to really just, it's like, I'm not going to get on CNN and exaggerate because they won't let me on that motherfucker anyway, but it's open season on black people, and you need to watch your fucking back, and you need to be careful. You need to not go out alone. It's serious. It's a race war. And if you're not prepared, you will be the next hashtag. I'm not going to be the next hashtag.
Beautiful. And I really thank you for that. And I just wish, only thing I changed different about this interview is I could have smoked a blunt too. People in the chat room, you got an issue with anybody smoking weed, that's your goddamn problem. This is what we do around here, because here at Hotep Ish, Intelligent Ish Talk, this is the profound and the profane. Life is a mixture. People think just because you spread information, you can't crack jokes and talk the real shit. No. We don't play that. Play a clean role. and spread information and act as if we're better than God and perfect than thou. That's not the game we play. We talk the real. Like I end every show with, there are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages. The reason why I say that is because I want people to understand that sometimes you have to go back to who you were before the third grade. Back in school, we had all we don't know we had all kinds of racist, crazy motherfuckers teaching us shit. But when you need to learn the difference between a vowel and a consonant, you don't ask what's the teacher's background morality. When you need to learn your algebra, you don't ask your teacher about the personal finances. When you need to learn game, you pick up the fucking game. And game is something that you know when you hear it. And at the same time, everybody's going to say things, me, my guest, anyone, your own mama, that you don't agree with. People are going to do things, have parts of their lives and live their lives in ways you may not necessarily agree with. So you got to ask yourself a question. Do you turn down the game that was given to you because you have a superficial hang up over something someone does, says, looks, creates that you don't like? We got to get smarter than that. And fortunately, a lot of us, most people in here, they're smart enough to, and not just in here in life, they are getting smart enough to decipher between the message and the message that's coming through. So that's something that we as a people can grow to, because I'm not going to turn down the game that's given from anybody because they did something I don't like. And Torrance, that's a great comic you just made. She rolled the perfect blunt. I'm looking at that blunt like, that shit hit right.
Let me say something. In honor of my father, right? Let me tell you something. When I was a kid, right, my father, he rolled his own cigarettes. And I know the show got to end, and I'm sorry, but let me just tell this story.
Go ahead.
In honor of my father. And I used to say, and at the time I didn't even know my dad was my dad. That's a whole other show. I thought my dad was my play uncle and my grandma was the lady that used to babysit us, right? Yeah. So
we wanted to have you back then.
He used to say, Munchkin, you don't need to know how to do that. You don't need to know how to do that. So when I grew up and I started smoking weed, because he would roll his buglers, right? I don't smoke out of pipes, bongs, papers.
It's something about rolling.
Let me tell you something. Perfect. Every time in honor of my father, the person who told me that I didn't need to know how to do this. You understand? I roll the perfect blunt every time. But I would like for people to check out Skin in the Game. I get absolutely no benefit from that. But anyway, it's a true story about my life and the rescuing that I did. The movie is based on my life. But I think that people should really check it out to understand, why I smoke so much. I wouldn't say that I'm a chain smoker, but, I think that it's important that people go check out the movie and really just see a true depiction. So it won the Pan-African Film Festival last year, Best First Feature. And people can get it on Amazon Prime or cable on demand. I get absolutely no proceeds from that. But the producer of the 13th, the person who produced the 13th for Ava DuVernay, is the same person who ended up producing this. And a wonderful brother named Adisa directed it and found me in a church basement in Watts teaching about sex trafficking prevention. So I'm just in the streets. And I think people should just keep it real or just keep it. And I appreciate you for having me, because one thing I love about you is that you just keep it the fuck ass real. And I think that if more people did that, we'd have more people that were waking up. Because I think a lot of people want to be woke, but you're too busy looking at fat asses and who doing what on social media. You understand? And we in a whole race war, and it's a whole bunch of fucking information that you need to have that you don't have yet. And you're not strapped up mentally. So don't worry about being strapped up with no guns if you ain't strapped up here. You got to get strapped with the right information and get it from the people who ain't on social media trying to be popular. Because if you're trying to be popular, you're trying to fake some motherfucker like a Nigerian trying to scam you on Yahoo.com. You understand? Like, don't. The people who are real have references that are available upon request. You understand? Mm-hmm. I thank you for having me, and I appreciate all that you do for the community.
I really thank you for coming on because here, like I said, we like to clown around. We're going to talk our current events. We're going to talk our bullshit here too. But it's also mixed in with the real shit because here, uh, we as people, you can see how it is with your job. You see the issues, but when you're out there working on the front end, you know where the solutions lie. You know what needs to be fixed. And me working on the front lines, I've just gotten to see that Black people aren't stupid. We're just misinformed. We're not crazy. We're just misguided. And the only way to really give it to us is to give it to us with the real. And I appreciate people who can, because I might say some things that offend people. I don't really mean to hurt people when I say that, but it's just my opinion. And at the same time, sometimes when you're waking people up, you got to shock them up into that shit. So the way some certain things I say may come off a certain way, but it's all based out of love.
Yeah.
And when you're in a race war like we are right now, we as a people is back on us as a people to be able to filter out the difference between the messenger and the message and how it was delivered. So I thank you for understanding that. I thank you for giving us your information and telling us your story. I'm definitely going to have you back on because we're here to heal. I'm just here to heal, man. I don't give a fuck about being popular, honestly. I've been in the shadows for 9 years because I don't want to be popular. I'm a Gemini like a motherfucker. All my skills say go out front, but inside I'll be like, man, fuck all that. But, we're doing it because only people that's going to save us is us. They're not going to give us a solution. The police ain't going to help. You're not going to get it through voting. You're going to get it through being and through doing. You're a living example of that. You're a living example of someone who did not allow the circumstances dealt to her to dictate the future of your life. I have nothing but admiration, respect, and honor for you. And so do the people here in the chat room. They love you. I have a lot of people saying thank you for your story.
Thank you, everybody.
People. Like this video, share it, because it's a lot of people that need to hear this. There are a lot of girls going through this and a lot of women going through this, and they need to know that when they make the decision to change and to do whatever it is they're going to do, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So please like and share. Like I said, not for popularity, because we need this information out there. Thank you again, Jayla, the Self-Esteem Queen. You guys see her website here. Buy some fucking candles. As a matter of fact, I need to buy some white candles and shit. I need to get my room. I need to get a cut of every chakra candle that you got so I can clean this house up.
Well, I'm actually redoing my website. It's still up, but anyway, buy some candles in a couple of weeks. It's still up, but I'm redoing everything because I'm changing it to really just be healing shit. Because quarantine has had me doing a lot of healing boxes, suicide prevention boxes, shit with crystals and stuff like that. So, I'm not here to make $1. I'm here to make a difference. So it's not overly expensive shit, but just understand it's a whole fucking factory in my living room over here. And, I do it from here because the energy here is real good. You see, I burn the sage and shit. This is my real life. I have twins that I homeschool here. This is real shit. And so, support a real nigga, cause Sean King got a whole lot of motherfucking followers, but shit, he collected monthly donations for his nonprofit too. You understand?
Talcum powder,
and all he giving you is stories that he regurgitated off the internet. Okay, you understand? So, support a real nigga. You know what I mean? Because all the proceeds go back to the emotional intelligence that I teach.
I'll make sure when that website's back up. Text me when it's back up, because I'll make sure I put it out there, and I'm gonna make sure I buy some candles.
And I'm gonna send you some candles anyway, my nigga. Just send me the address where I need to send them, but we'll talk about that offline.
Okay, we talk about that. I'm gonna get some candles, y'all. Shit. So, in same thing, visit hotepish.com, breakthroughas.org. My breakthroughas.org website is down, but relationship classes are coming, one-on-one and also group at a discount. So I want you guys to stay up for that. And remember this: there are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages for those who are willing to pick up game. If you're willing to pick up game, you're going to get the message and spit out the messenger if you need to. My name is Dewan B.